Over the next 12 to 14 minutes, I'm going to be teaching you all the tonality cues that make even the most sort of difficult and ridiculous prospects into little Labrador puppies, okay? I wasted years trying to figure out how to say the right thing when someone says this and you say this, someone says that and you say that, right? When in reality, as we've all been told by our partners and our moms and our parents, sometimes it's not what you say, but it's how you say it. And it wasn't until I kind of figured out how to use these different tonal cues and how to actually implement them into my sales that I was able to go from a struggling sales rep into a 7-figure earning sales rep, and then obviously growing multiple 8-figure businesses. And if you're the type of person that wants not just information, but the implementation of that, then you're in the right place. And we're going to be going over that today. So let's dive right into the concepts. So the key concepts when it comes to tonality and what tonality actually is and does is that it is the way in which you carry your voice, okay, the way that you project your voice in order to convey the emotion in which the prospect should feel. If you picture an actor, okay, they are going to use their voice to make you feel a certain way, which is why even though movies are fake, we still cry, we laugh, we do all those kind of things, okay? Because the tonality and the body language and that actor does a good job of clearly conveying the fact that we, the audience, are supposed to feel a certain way, which is why when someone breaks character or does something weird, right, it sort of breaks the veil and then all of a sudden it's not as good anymore. So as a salesperson, I don't need you to be a character, but I need you to understand that you have to act in a very human way the entire time. Otherwise, there's going to be issues, and they're not going to trust you, and it's going to be kind of an X factor. So the key ones are curiosity, certainty, skepticism, playfulness, empathy, urgency, and authority. All right, we're going to be breaking those down one by one. First of all, we're going to go with curiosity. So we're going to talk about the what, but also the why. So curiosity is to sort of draw people out, and it's really good to be very curious and to be leaned in and seeming like you and actually caring about what the person is saying. Curiosity is generally a higher tone. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll say like, hey, how are you? Okay, so hey, how are you is a question, right? And you can be, hey, how are you? Right? It's sort of flippant, you don't really care. Hey, how are you? Right? And that's like, it's higher and there's more dynamics in the range. So hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? Okay, and you can do lots of different intonations there, but generally speaking, a curiosity is going to be a little bit quicker and a little bit higher. And what that's designed to do is designed to make you seem interested and engaged. Okay, because if you're curious, you are interested and you are engaged. Whereas if you're skeptical, you're curious with a bent to it. Okay, if that makes sense. So curiosity is key, especially at the beginning of a call, to draw out more information. And when someone is giving you and telling you things about their personal wants and needs, if you do not convey genuine curiosity by leaning in, by going, oh, okay, like when someone's saying about their goals, I go, oh, okay, oh, really? Okay. Oh, that's cool, man. So, oh, that's cool, man. Oh, that's cool, man. So that raise and inflection, it allows someone to know that, hey, I'm engaged, I'm listening, I'm here for it. What you're telling me, I think is interesting, fun, and cool. Okay? So it's not like you're like the wacky arm waving, hey, my God, you're not some sort of weird sales, like crazy person, but you are engaging, okay? Your curiosity is essential and you do it every single day, and it's very, very easy to implement. Just to give yourself a little cue, okay? A little bit higher. Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? Okay, that's much more concerned, for example, okay? Then we've got certainty. Certainty is very important to have as a through line throughout your entire sales process, because if you're not certain about something and you don't know what it is you're doing, then people don't want to buy from you, right? Have you ever like handed your money over and someone's like, that'll be $14? You're like, oh, I don't want to give you $14 for some reason. I hate your face and I think you're a scammer. All right? So certainty, and the way I'm talking now, I'm talking with a high level of certainty. And so I'm forthright. It's a very assured version, and it is your normal voice projected from your chest. Okay? If I go from my throat, it goes higher. If I go from my stomach, it goes like lower. Okay? And it's from my chest. Okay? It's your certainty can diminish based on your like body position. If someone's lying down when you call them, like, you can hear it. No one has a high level of certainty lying down. Just an odd like hello, right? Like you're half asleep. Okay? So project certainty as your default throughout the entire thing, right? And then you're going to use these other tonalities to come up and down. But a person has to feel like you are confident and you know what you're talking about. People who have high levels of certainty do not waffle. They do not justify, hey, so what I'm hearing you say is that you might be looking for X and Y and Z. It's just like, oh, so you're looking for X and Y and Z? Okay. So you don't justify your questions. You have a high level of certainty. Okay, so that's number 2.
Hey guys, what's up? Matt here, and I've noticed that a lot of you are not subscribed. So what I want you to do is like go over and hit the little subscription. It really helps the channel out. And if you like the kind of content that I do and you're like, hey, how can I get similar content but pay for it? Then I have a membership. You can go over and join that at any stage that you want. It's like $49 a month up to about $200 a month. And we do like live Q&As. We have a coaching call nearly every single day. And there's like well over 100 videos, and I upload like sort of private trainings and stuff that I do all the time. So if you want to check that out, go for it. Sign up through YouTube, cancel anytime, all that kind of good stuff. And anyway, back to the video. Bye.
Number 3 is skepticism, okay? So skepticism is like you're kind of like you're questioning, right, what they're saying, but it's a curious questioning. If you go overly skeptical, then it makes it feel like you're questioning in like a negative way. It's like I don't mind being asked questions, but being questioned, right? You know what I mean? And so you have to have a curious skepticism. When you say that, like, do you mean this? Sorry, I'm just a bit confused, okay? So it's like confused curiosity, right? That's the way that you want to do it. It's a gentler way of challenging somebody, okay? But it's important because if you're that confused curious, okay, it's like I'm sorry, you said this. Like what did you mean? Okay, and what that's going to do is it's going to allow that conversation to move forward and probe. And so when you hear things that are clear issues within your sales call, okay, you have to be able to interact with those things and push back on those things, but do it in a way where like lock that down, close the door, and then move forward, okay? The next one is playfulness. Playfulness, I think, is very, very underrated. So I would say my sales style in general on sales calls is playful certainty, right? And you're gonna find like all of these are gonna be used throughout it. Like I'm quite curious, especially in playful at the top. Then from there, I'm very certain, and then I'll go through different levels of skepticism, empathy, right? I'll build urgency, stuff like that, and then I'm gonna have like a lot of authority in sort of like what I'm doing. But I would say playful is a good way to describe the way that I sell. Now, that's because like I'm a funny person, like I have a pretty decent wit about myself, if I do say so myself. The reason for that is I went to a lot of different schools, right? And so not everyone's gonna have that. And so if that's not you naturally, then you don't wanna try and fake it too much, right? Because faking a tonality is really difficult. But playful, it's just designed to break tension, and it's usually gonna be higher pitched, shorter periods. Like, oh, really? Okay, that makes sense. It's like, oh, really? You know, and it's like using that or being a little bit self-deprecating is really, really valuable to break tension, break through, and actually be able to have a really good, genuine conversation with the prospect, because there's so many times where just a little bit of humor, a little bit of playfulness, right? And breaking that, just breaking the whole in your head, I have to sound like a sales rep, and just having genuine conversations and being able to, like when someone says something silly, just kind of call it out and be like, what do you mean? Sorry, what's going on there, right? And it's, again, that was playful. So it's the difference between making fun of someone and like, you know, having a nice fun jest with somebody, and like trying to hurt their feelings. So it's like if you're making fun of a friend, you know, like you're being playful with it. You're not intending to hurt them. You're just being playful, right? But if you are, like if you don't like the person and you want to hurt their feelings, you can say the exact same words and there'll be far more venom behind it, and it's gonna come off in a much more condescending way. So playfulness and condescending are very, very similar. And if you find that you're someone who tries to be playful and act jokes and it just doesn't land, it's because you come off as condescending. Okay? Number 5, empathy. So this is one that a lot of guys especially struggle with. The easiest way to probably fake, and even if you are empathetic, sometimes it's difficult to come across that way. But the easiest way to let someone know that you're being empathetic is to listen, be quiet and listen to what they're saying and ask them questions about it, and just be a softer tone. Okay, like when you say that, like what do you mean? Okay, so it's a little bit quieter, and you're gonna talk from like your chest a little bit, and it's gonna be softer. So you're gonna soften it, a little bit more breathy, right? Not like a creepy way, okay? But it's like, hey, when you, so I'm gonna ask like the same question. It's like, So what happens if you don't change that and you just keep doing what you're doing, okay? If I'm curious, hey, so what happens if you don't change that and you just kind of keep doing what you're doing, okay? That was nice and curious, okay? If I'm doing playful, be like, so what happens, man? Like you keep doing the same thing, like what happens then? And then I've got empathy, so what happens if you, I guess, keep doing the same things and nothing changes? So you can see how like the same thing, just the exact same sentence, basically, with different intonations and a different tonal cue will have a very, very different reception from the prospect, okay? And these are relatively easy things to put in. You want to have more levels of neutrality and curiosity and those playfulness and skepticism towards the top. As you get down, you want to increase certainty, okay? You want to increase empathy, you want to increase urgency, and in your pitch, you want to increase authority, okay? So that's like a really easy way for you to think about it. And then to implement this, you just do it one at a time, and you work on the vocal tonal cues, right? Curiosity is right? So it's higher up, okay? And then you just work on one sentence at a time. Hey, I'm gonna have a curious tone in the sentence, like, hey, how are you, man? What's going on? Oh, really? Okay. Instead of, hey, how are you? What's going on? Oh, okay. Right? It sounds very like monotonous and scripted, okay? So that's kind of how we build on each other, right? Now, number 6 is urgency, okay? So urgency is more something that you're looking to drive action, okay? So whereas empathy is like trying to build more trust, because like if someone feels like you're being empathetic and you're a safe space to talk to, then they're gonna open up more to you. Then from there, the point of urgency is to show that juxtaposition where you're looking to drive more action-based stuff, okay? And urgency is going to be derived less from a specific tonal cue, but more from the word structuring, okay? So that's where you're going to put in and emphasize yourself more of the time frame based things. Why is that important to you now, though? Why is that important to you now, though? It's like, okay, so, do you want to do that later, or would you rather do it now? Okay, so like why now, though? Okay, so again, it's that emphasis on time frame based stuff, right? That's going to drive more urgency, and it's going to build a wider gap, okay? The last one that we're going to go over is authority. Now, an authority tone is something that you have to do a self-assessment if you are someone that has the ability to drive a lot of authority when you're speaking to someone, right? So are you a natural leader, right? Are you someone who, people just kind of get behind? Are you someone who, if someone were to step in a line, okay, and were to cut in front of you, would you say something? Now, there's no right answer to that. There's just you would or you wouldn't, or it kind of depends. If you're someone who would all the time, chances are you have a more certain, a more forthright, a more authoritative tone, okay? And authoritative can be a good thing, but can also be a bad thing. Authority is meant to set boundaries, right? And then be like, hey, we're going to talk about this. And so that's going to be like almost like a dad talk, right? It's sort of like when you hear dad voice. Dad voice is highly authoritative. Doesn't have to be mean, nice. There doesn't have to be any of that. It's just, hey, today is what we're going to do. Now, if that's not natural, it's going to come off weird. Then what you want to do is you want to use more definitive languaging in order to pull that off, okay? Just like with urgency, where we're going to be using an emphasis on more time frame based language. With authority, we're going to use more definitive language, okay? What that does, it pulls the boundaries in of what acceptable conversation is, okay? And then from there, you say that and you project that confidently. Now, if you're someone with a very forthright tone, then using very authoritative language couldn't be too much. And it's going to sound like you're being a dictator. So then you use neutral languaging with your natural authoritative tone in order to get that across, okay? So like with anything, if you're someone who is naturally, like with curiosity, really bubbly and like that, if you then go above that, you're going to sound ridiculous because you have a naturally curious demeanor. If you're someone with a high level of certainty, if you try and ramp that up, okay, then you're going to sound overbearing. If you're really skeptical all the time, you know what I mean? Then chances are when you ramp that up, you're going to sound like you're just like not believing a word anybody says. Same with playfulness, okay? You're going to sound like you're just not serious and listening. Empathy is going to be like, all right, mate, calm it down. You're going to sound like a therapist. Okay, urgency is you're going to sound like the house is on fire, right? And authority, you're just going to sound like a dictator, okay? So all of these things, you have to assess how you go about them a little bit with your natural demeanor. Most people are quite passive and leaned out, okay? Because there are more Indians than there are chiefs, right? You know what I mean? There are more non-leaders than leaders. And so you need to do a self-assessment, and then from there you have a look and go, okay, how do I come off? Then what you want to do is you want to try and pick the one of the wins that we've gone over, which brings me to a more neutral playing field. So if I'm like hyper curious, it's like maybe I go more skeptical. You know what I mean? Because like that's just it's gonna realign me back down to neutral. Okay? So those are the like 7 key tonal cues, and exactly what they do and how to use them and how you can implement them and for you and your personality and your selling. If you like this kind of content, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, hit notification bell, all that kind of good stuff, and I'll see you on the next video.